Simple grammar, clause structure, and sentence types. See my videos on YouTube for more on grammar and American literature. Clause structure. A clause is a subject-verb relationship. A dependent clause cannot stand alone as a sentence. An independent clause can stand alone as a sentence. Independent and dependent clauses can be combined to create different sentence types. The independent clause consists of one subject-verb relationship which could stand alone as a sentence. The dependent clause consists of one subject-verb relationship which cannot stand alone as a sentence. Here are some examples. An independent example, John runs. In this example, we have one part to the subject, one part to the verb, one subject-verb relationship, and this is an example of an independent clause. It is also an example of a simple sentence. Here is an example of a dependent clause. Notice that we have the same subject-verb relationship, John runs. However, this clause begins with a subordinating conjunction, while. Anytime a clause begins with a subordinating conjunction, that clause will be a dependent clause, and it will not be able to stand alone as a sentence. If it is punctuated as a sentence all by itself, it will be a fragment. This dependent clause contains a subject, John, and a verb, runs, but it cannot stand alone as a sentence because it begins with a subordinating conjunction, while. When a clause starts with a subordinating conjunction, it will always be a dependent clause. It will always be a fragment if punctuated as a sentence. Here are some common subordinating conjunctions: because, after, while, since, if, when, before, until. We also have 7 coordinating conjunctions. Coordinating conjunctions are used to link independent clauses. Both clauses are still considered independent. Coordinating conjunctions are and, but, or, nor, for, so, and yet. Here are our 4 sentence types. The simple sentence has one independent clause. The compound sentence has 2 or more independent clauses. A complex sentence has one independent clause and 1 or more dependent clauses. A compound complex sentence has 2 or more independent clauses and 1 or more dependent clauses. Some students may prefer to look at the sentence types as something like a formula, similar to mathematics. If so, a simple sentence equals 1 independent clause. In this formulation, no other clauses will appear, just 1 independent clause. If we have more than 1 independent clause, or any type of clause actually, then it will no longer be a simple sentence. For a compound sentence, we have 1 independent clause plus a coordinating conjunction plus another independent clause. A complex sentence, 1 independent clause plus 1 or more dependent clauses. A compound complex sentence, 1 independent clause plus a coordinating conjunction plus another independent clause plus 1 or more dependent clauses. Here are examples of these sentence types. The simple sentence, we have one subject-verb relationship, John runs. At the park, this phrase following does not affect this. That's a phrase and not a clause. John runs is our only subject-verb relationship. In the second example, a compound sentence, John runs is one subject-verb relationship. Mary runs is a second and independent subject-verb relationship. We can draw a line in here to show this. Let's imagine we have a line here after the word park. John runs at the park. That could be one independent clause. Mary runs at the gym. This could be a second independent clause, and they are joined by the coordinating conjunction and. For the complex sentence, we have the same basic subject-verb relationship to start our sentence, John runs, and we have a second clause. We see we have Mary runs, but notice this time instead of a coordinating conjunction we have a subordinating conjunction, the word after. So the clause following a subordinating conjunction will always be a dependent clause. This gives us 1 independent clause and 1 dependent clause for a complex sentence. In our 4th example, a compound complex sentence, we start again with our same basic subject-verb relationship, an independent clause, John runs. We have then a subordinating conjunction, after, so we know the clause following this will be a dependent clause. Mary runs. After Mary runs is our dependent clause. We have then a coordinating conjunction, the word and then we have another subject-verb relationship, they lift. So we have an independent clause here, John runs at the park would be the entire sentence if we wanted to make it a sentence, but John runs is the basic subject-verb relationship. We have a dependent clause, after Mary runs, and then we have another independent clause, they lift, joined to the rest of the sentence with a coordinating conjunction. This gives us two independent clauses, one dependent clause for a compound complex sentence.